Hello, it's Alpha here, and today we are going to be talking about the Enhanced Force upgrades of the upcoming season. So first I will just quickly explain what the Enhanced Force upgrade is, in case you don't already know, and then I will go through all of the heroes that will be getting the upgrade during the next season, but the main focus of this video will be Hodgkin, because he's one of the two heroes that are getting the Enhanced Force upgrade right away when the new season begins. So if you are not familiar with the Enhanced Force upgrades, they were something that was introduced to AFK Journey during the current season, the Chains of Eternity season. And the idea of this upgrade is to buff some of the heroes that are kind of not seeing as much use in the game currently. And then hopefully with these upgrades, they would be more desirable for people to use. For you to be able to get the Enhanced Force upgrade, you have to have the specific hero at Supreme Plus level already, and then you have the option to give them the upgrade. And the upgrade is done with something called Shadow Essence, but this is just a resource that you will be getting throughout the season for free just by playing the game. So at least during the first season when this thing was introduced, you were able to upgrade all of the available heroes. So there is no like you need to save these resources or anything like that. At least that's how it was during the Chains of Eternity season. So these are all of the heroes that were confirmed in the official video. So the heroes this season will be Hodgkin, Scarletta, Niru, Nara, Brian, Dunlinger, Rus, and Granny. And the first two heroes that will be getting the upgrade, like I said, one of them is Hodgkin and the other one is Scarletta. So these two heroes will have the upgrade available right when the season begins. And then the other heroes will unlock this option throughout the season, like whenever they are like these big patches, they usually allow you to upgrade the next two heroes or something like that. So I think the selection of heroes is kind of interesting this time around because some of these heroes are not really used at all right now, but then some of these heroes are actually already kind of like to some extent meta heroes, at least in PvP. So it's interesting to see how these upgrades will affect their performance. So let's go through all of the heroes and then we'll focus on Hodgkin a bit more because right now we don't actually have the specific information about how the other heroes will be upgraded. We only know it for Scarletta and Hodgkin, so we can't really say for sure how potentially good the other upgrades will be, but I'll just give kind of like overview about the heroes. So let's quickly talk about Nara, I guess. The thing about her is that she's already decent in what she does. So that is that she can pull one of the key heroes from the enemy team into your team, and then hopefully your team can kind of like defeat that key hero very quickly. But she is kind of only really usable as part of your attack teams, because if you're using her as part of your defense teams, your opponent will know who the pull is targeting, and they can just place a hero that is crowd control immune, so the pull won't actually do anything, or they can just place some tanky hero that it doesn't really matter if you pull the tanky hero into the enemy team, and actually it might be a bad thing if you pull like Thoran into the enemy team, for example. So that's why she's not gonna be really usable on defense team, and I don't really see how they could change her so that she would be usable on defense team. Then we have Brian. He's kind of in a similar situation that he is definitely usable. A lot of Supreme Arena teams use him in combination with Aaron, for example, or for normal arena you also see him being used a lot with Aaron teams, because the main utility of Brian is to block the Lily Maze interruption, or you can just use him outside of Aaron team. For example, if you want to use Shamira or Cryonaya or whatever, and the enemy team has Lily Maze, then you can still use Brian to block the Lily Maze so that your Shamira can ultimate, for example. So I guess anything that they're gonna give him is gonna be nice. Yeah, I'm not sure that it's gonna change his use that much, unless he's actually gonna be able to do like a lot of damage, then he can be even more used, I guess. So then we have Niru, who is kind of in the same situation with Brian. He's mostly used for blocking Lily Maze, The reason why I prefer Brian over Nero is that Brian is a range hero and he can do like a decent amount of damage and he can like survive one fatal blow. Whereas Nero is kind of like supposed to be this support hero, but he's also a melee hero, so that doesn't really make that much sense because he's quite squishy and he will just walk to the front lines and then die. So that's usually what happens with him. So if they actually make Nero like a ranged hero, then he might be a bit more usable in the future. Then we have Dunlinger, which is kind of crazy because Dunlinger is actually like a really good hero when it comes to PvP. I don't really necessarily think that he needs any boost because he is actually really good already, but okay, he's getting some kind of boost. And then we have the two heroes that are kind of like the least used, I guess. So we have Bruce and Granny, and honestly, I don't think that them getting the upgrade will change that. I mean, Granny, I don't know like how good she actually is. Like, it's possible that she can be like decent tank. It's just that nobody really uses her right now, so there is like no testing done with her. So I guess we'll see how good she is. So Hodgkin, he's kind of interesting because he's one of those heroes that I never see basically anyone use. I'm not sure I've ever seen him being used on like the arena or Supreme Arena where I play. Kind of partially because of that reason, I actually tried using him during the previous Pioneer testing. And we didn't know back then even that he was going to be getting the Enhanced Force upgrade. So I was just doing some testing with him for fun. And here is a couple clips from the previous Pioneer testing before this upgrade.
I'm the strongest!
So yeah, he was actually like decent at doing damage even before these upgrades, but let's talk about the upgrades. So first I will just quickly explain some of his skills. His ultimate fires this cannon to each enemies, and then each enemy will be hit by the cannonball, and then the cannonball will do AoE damage to nearby enemies. So this obviously is best when the enemies are kind of like grouped up together, because then like the multiple cannonballs can hit all of the enemies. So this is why he can sometimes like completely destroy the enemy team, because in the current meta quite a lot of teams are kind of like focused in grouping around heroes like Twins and Ludovic so that they can be healed by the Ludovic. But then this also means that Hodgkin's ultimate will hit all of the enemies at the same time. So it can be really powerful. So then Hodgkin's Supreme Plus ability by default says that he reduces the physical defense of enemies hit by multiple cannon shots by 15%, and this can stack twice, so then the physical defense reduction is 30% if they are hit by multiple ones. So this was already the case with his current kit, but now with the new Supreme Plus upgrade enhances his ultimate even further. So he will start with 400 initial energy, which means that he can cast his ultimate faster. And then if the same enemy is hit twice by the cannonballs, which once again means that this is more effective if the enemies are grouped up, the Hodgkin will reduce the enemy's vitality, which means that they will not be getting as much healing or shielding. He will reduce the vitality by 80 for 10 seconds. and 80 is a huge amount of vitality reduction. I'm not sure if there are currently any heroes that does 80. And then Hodgkin will also gain 150 energy if the cannonballs hit multiple enemies. So this means that usually when he casts his ultimate for the first time, he will be pretty much casting the ultimate non-stop afterwards, because he will just like start cycling the ultimates and enemies start dying, or if multiple enemies get hit by the ultimate, he also gets energy. And if you didn't know, whenever if a hero is the one who lands the kind of like the killing shot on one of the enemies, they will get I think it's 200 energy back. So if he kills one of the enemies, he gets like instantly back 200 energy, and then some extra energy from this effect as well. So he can quite often just cast the second ultimate like right away. So the other reasons why you would maybe want to use Hodgkin is his second ability, which is called Phantom Respite. And this ability has 3-second initial cooldown, and it will last for 8 seconds when he casts it. And this ability makes Hodgkin immune to all physical damage. So you can imagine that this ability can be insanely powerful against some teams where the main damage dealers are physical damage heroes. And then on top of this, whenever he casts his ultimate, he will also go into this immune state for the next 4 seconds. So kind of usually what ends up happening is that at the start of the fight, he will cast this and he will be immune for the 8 seconds, and then he is able to cast his ultimate, which means that will also extend the immunity to something like 12 seconds, and then he will be maybe able to cast the ultimate once again. So then after that ends, he can just cast this ability once again. So he's basically just immune to physical damage throughout the whole fight. Now you might think that he's also good against Athalia, because Athalia is also a physical damage dealer, and that is kind of like part of the reason why I tried using him during the last Pioneer test, because I tried to kind of like find a way how to counter Athalia. But the issue is that he is not actually very good against Athalia. He can like survive the dash abilities, which is already like to some extent nice, but the issue is that he deals a lot of damage, which means that he will be the target of Athalia's ultimate, and for some reason the ultimate deals true damage, which means that even if you are immune to physical damage, Athalia will just destroy Hodgkin. But yeah, the kind of like the main reason why he is not so popular right now is also just the fact that a lot of the meta heroes are magic damage dealers, so against those heroes this ability doesn't really do anything. And then his second ability is actually also really good. It has 4 seconds initial cooldown, and it will do this 2-tile wide slash on the enemies, and he will steal 100 energy from all of the enemies that he hits. Since he starts now the fight with 400 energy, and if he hits like multiple enemies with this ability, he will be able to cast the ultimate pretty much after that. And also, because it's stealing energy, it also delays the enemy ultimates a little bit. So this can be very effective ability if you are able to get Hodgkin to the enemy team quickly. But kind of one of his issues is also that he is a melee hero and quite like slow at walking. So it can take him quite a while to actually get to the enemy team. And even if he does, it might be that he's only hitting like the tank hero of the enemy team, so something like Toran or Fresto. So then this energy steal is not going to be as useful because he's only stealing energy from something like Fresto. So that is basically the overview of Hodgkin and what makes Hodgkin good and what makes him kind of like bad. So the pros are that he is really, really strong against physical damage heroes. So this could be good, for example, against smaller teams, if they become strong in the Supreme Arena during this season, for example. His pros are that his ultimate is really strong, and he can steal energy from enemy heroes. And then what are his weaknesses? Like I said, a lot of the strong meta heroes are magic damage dealers, so that means that part of his kit is completely useless against those heroes. And then his other weakness is that he's melee hero, And in some maps especially, this can be really like awkward for him because he gets blocked by a lot of things. So if we are using, for example, the map 3, which has quite narrow gap where your heroes can run. So if there are like multiple melee heroes, he can kind of get stuck behind all of those melee heroes. And also because one of his abilities, which we didn't really talk about, his Mythic Plus ability summons 2 of these minions on both of his sides. And those minions can also potentially kind of like block him on some of the maps. And he also spends like the first 3 seconds of the fight summoning those. So he's kind of like slow to get going. So that is why I think Rainier is like especially kind of like key when it comes to using him. I mean, he can work even without Rainier if the map is like one of those open maps, but this is definitely something you have to keep in mind, that sometimes he's kind of getting blocked by your team. The counter picks for him are, like I said, Athalia. Athalia will just ultimate him and he will die. Igor is also another counter pick to him, because even though he is able to like do AoE damage and kill most of your team, he is not going to be able to kill Igor. And then another potential kind of like counter for him can be Kulu, because Kulu will create the wall between the 2 teams, and then if you are not able to get him across the wall to the enemy side of the team, so then he's not gonna be able to do a lot during the fight. And even if you are able to get him to the other side of the wall, Kulu has a couple of abilities that can potentially throw him back to the other side of the wall, and then he doesn't really have any ways to get back to the enemy team, so that can definitely be bad for him. So the team ideas, like I said, Rainier, when you are attacking, is the number 1 hero in my opinion to use with him. Then if the enemy team is using Athalia, you can just cry about it and maybe don't attack that team. But if you want to attack it, I think your best options are going to be using Dunlinger, because Dunlinger can prevent the ultimates from happening. So if you can prevent the Athalia from casting her ultimate, then she is not actually going to be able to kill your Hodgkin, because all of her other abilities, aside from her ultimate, do physical damage. So Hodgkin is immune to all of the damage. So it's only the ultimate that is kind of threat to your Hodgkin. And then just in general, whenever you're using Rainier, I think Gerda is great addition to those teams, because you can give crowd control immunity for 5 seconds at the start of the fight with Gerda to the hero that is being swapped into the enemy team. One extra note is that if you still have the swap ticket available for you, which for example I didn't swap any of the heroes during the season where Hodgkin was released, you can potentially use it to swap Nara into Hodgkin if your Nara is like Supreme Plus, for example. So that way you can get yourself Hodgkin. Although one thing I would maybe advise is to wait a little bit, because right now we don't know what the Nara's upgraded Supreme Plus ability will be, but she will get her upgrade as well during this season. Now personally, I don't think she will be better than Hodgkin even with the update, but just to be safe, I would maybe wait. So the conclusion is that I think he has a lot of potential against some specific teams, on Supreme Arena especially, and even on normal arena once you're doing your attacks. He can be really powerful and really fun to use, but for defense purposes, I don't think that he will be a meta hero, because there are just like too many things that you can use to counter him, using like all magic teams or using Igor. Yeah, that is kind of my conclusion based on the testing that I did, and then we can take a look at some of the fights that he is able to absolutely destroy the enemy team.
Now, let's see who dares to challenge me.
I'm the strong.
The battlefield, a state of art.
I'm the strong.
Ready.